The history of America begins long before European settlers arrived. For thousands of years, indigenous peoples inhabited the land, creating diverse cultures, languages, and civilizations such as the Mississippian mound builders, the Pueblo peoples of the Southwest, and the Iroquois Confederacy in the Northeast. These societies had complex trade networks, political systems, and spiritual traditions that shaped the continent. In 1492, Christopher Columbus's voyage opened the door for European exploration, leading to Spanish, French, Dutch, and English settlements. Spain established colonies in Florida, the Southwest, and California, while France controlled large parts of Canada and the Mississippi River Valley. The English founded the first permanent settlement at Jamestown in 1607, and later established the 13 colonies along the Atlantic coast. These colonies grew through agriculture, trade, and migration, but they also relied heavily on the transatlantic slave trade, which brought millions of Africans into bondage and created a foundation for America's economy. Native Americans, meanwhile, suffered displacement, disease, and warfare as settlers expanded. By the mid-18th century, tensions grew between Britain and the colonies due to taxation without representation and restrictive policies. The American Revolution erupted in 1775, and after years of fighting, the colonies declared independence in 1776, forming the United States of America. The Revolution ended in 1783 with victory at Yorktown and the Treaty of Paris, securing American sovereignty. The nation then experimented with the Articles of Confederation before adopting the Constitution in 1787, establishing a federal system with checks and balances. George Washington became the first president, setting many precedents for governance. The 19th century was marked by expansion and conflict. The Louisiana Purchase in 1803 doubled the nation's size, and westward migration, driven by the idea of manifest destiny, pushed settlers across the continent. This expansion came at the expense of Native Americans, who were forced from their lands through policies like the Indian Removal Act and events such as the Trail of Tears. The War of 1812 against Britain reaffirmed American independence, while the Mexican-American War in the 1840s added vast territories, including California and Texas. Industrialization and immigration fueled economic growth, but the institution of slavery divided the nation. The abolitionist movement grew in the North, while the South defended slavery as essential to its economy. This divide culminated in the Civil War from 1861 to 1865, the bloodiest conflict in American history. Southern states seceded to form the Confederacy, but the Union, led by Abraham Lincoln, fought to preserve the nation and end slavery. The war ended with Union victory, and slavery was abolished with the 13th Amendment. Reconstruction attempted to rebuild the South and secure rights for freedmen. But racial violence and discriminatory laws persisted, leading to nearly a century of segregation under Jim Crow. The late 19th and early 20th centuries saw America rise as an industrial and global power. Railroads, steel, and oil industries created immense wealth, while millions of immigrants arrived from Europe and Asia seeking opportunity. Cities grew rapidly, but so did poverty and labor unrest. The U.S. became involved in overseas conflicts, winning the Spanish-American War in 1898 and acquiring territories like Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. World War I saw America intervene in 1917, helping the Allies to victory. The 1920s brought economic prosperity, cultural change, and social tensions with jazz, cinema, and women gaining the right to vote. However, the Great Depression of the 1930s devastated the economy, leading to widespread unemployment and hardship. Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal introduced social programs and reforms to stabilize the nation. In 1941, the attack on Pearl Harbor brought the United States into World War II. America played a decisive role in defeating Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan, emerging as a global superpower. The war ended with the use of atomic bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The post-war period saw prosperity, suburbanization, and the rise of the Cold War. The US and the Soviet Union engaged in an ideological, political, and military struggle that lasted for decades, shaping global affairs. Domestically, the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 1960s challenged racial segregation and injustice, with leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. pushing for equality. Landmark legislation such as the Civil Rights Act and Voting Rights Act transformed American society. The 1960s and 1970s also saw cultural revolutions, protests against the Vietnam War, and movements for women's rights, environmental protection, and Native American rights. By the late 20th century, America was the world's leading power. The Cold War ended in 1991 with the collapse of the Soviet Union, leaving the U.S. as the sole superpower. The nation faced new challenges, including globalization, economic shifts, and political divisions. The terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001, reshaped U.S. foreign and domestic policy, leading to wars in Afghanistan and Iraq as part of the War on Terror. Technological innovations transformed daily life, while debates over immigration, healthcare, and inequality grew more intense. In the 21st century, America has faced polarization, economic crises, and social upheavals. The election of Barack Obama in 2008 marked a historic milestone as the first African-American president. The following years saw debates over climate change, trade, and foreign relations. The rise of populism, the COVID-19 pandemic, and increasing divisions in politics and culture have shaped the modern era. Today, the United States remains a powerful yet deeply complex nation, defined by its struggles for freedom, justice, and equality, while continuing to influence global affairs economically, militarily, and culturally. In the 21st century, America entered a period of transformation and turbulence that continues to define it today. After the 9/11 attacks, the United States committed itself to long wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, which became the longest military engagement in its history. The wars were aimed at dismantling terrorist networks and spreading democracy, but dragged on with high costs in lives and resources, leading to debates over interventionism and America's role in the world. The 2008 financial crisis hit hard, triggering the worst recession since the Great Depression. Millions lost homes and jobs, and it reshaped the economy. In response, President Barack Obama, elected that same year as the first African-American president, pushed forward stimulus programs, financial reforms, and healthcare reform, resulting in the Affordable Care Act. His presidency also oversaw the killing of Osama bin Laden in 2011, a symbolic victory in the fight against terrorism. Yet his time in office also revealed growing political divides, with conservatives and liberals increasingly polarized. In 2016, Donald Trump's election shocked many, as he campaigned on nationalism, immigration restrictions, and a promise to put America first. His presidency was marked by strong populist rhetoric, trade wars with China, attempts to withdraw from international agreements, and a deeply divided domestic scene. Controversies over immigration policies, impeachment trials, and widespread protests highlighted sharp societal fractures. At the same time, movements like Black Lives Matter gained prominence, especially after high-profile cases of police brutality, fueling nationwide debates over race, justice, and policing. The COVID-19 pandemic struck in 2020, overwhelming healthcare systems, causing widespread lockdowns, and taking hundreds of thousands of American lives. The crisis revealed weaknesses in healthcare, economic inequality, and political unity. It also disrupted global trade and daily life. In the midst of the pandemic, the 2020 election saw Joe Biden defeat Trump, leading to one of the most contentious transfers of power in U.S. history. The January 6, 2021 attack on the Capitol by rioters shocked the world and underscored how fragile American democracy appeared to be. Biden's presidency is focused on pandemic recovery, rebuilding alliances abroad, addressing climate change, and navigating an increasingly tense rivalry with China. Domestically, debates rage over voting rights, gun violence, immigration reform, reproductive rights, and culture wars. The U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan in 2021 ended 2 decades of war but left behind chaotic scenes that drew both relief and criticism. Meanwhile, Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022 thrust the U.S. back into a central role on the world stage, supporting Ukraine with aid and military assistance, while facing challenges from rising global authoritarianism. By the mid-2020s, America continues to grapple with its identity. The country is more diverse than ever, with demographic shifts shaping politics, culture, and society. Technology has revolutionized life with artificial intelligence, space exploration, and digital connectivity, but it has also fueled misinformation and social division. Economic inequality remains a pressing issue, with debates over the balance between capitalism and social welfare. Climate disasters, from wildfires to hurricanes, have pushed climate policy to the forefront of national concern. America today stands as a nation of contradictions, a superpower with unmatched influence but also internal fractures that test its democratic foundations. It is a land of innovation, culture, and freedom, but also of deep struggles over equality, justice, and unity. Its history from the time of indigenous civilizations to the present shows a continuous story of conflict and resilience, of ideals tested and redefined, and of a